some of you guys probably don't know, I was raised Muslim. So my parents, my brothers and sisters, there's 10 of us in our family. There's only 3 of us in our family that are Christians. My brothers, I have 7 brothers, you're all still practicing Islam. And I have my father and my mother are still practicing Islam. I became a Christian at age 19. It was in October. It was a wonderful time. It was a glorious time. I was a practicing Muslim all the way up until then. I did my salats 5 times a day. I spoke Arabic. It was everything to me. And I went to college. I went off to college, and I went to Cal State Bakersfield. And as I was roommating with a Christian, someone that I knew from school, but I didn't socialize with her. And she was my roommate. And every day she would talk about, Jesus and the Lord, and I would try to convince her and convert her over to Islam, and we'll get into these debates and these arguments, and it was really something. So the next year she would always just say, inviting me. She was like, well, you should just come to church, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to church, So the next year, I decided not to be a roommate with her because I didn't want to be in the room with her because she was not trying to be a Muslim. So the next year, I wasn't a roommate, but I still saw her frequently on the campus. And she would still ask me, she was very humble, she would ask me to go to church with her. And I was like, no, for the whole year she asked me this. So my junior year, when I came back in the fall of my junior year, I saw her again. This time she had moved off campus, but when she would see me, she would still ask me to go to church with her. So this time I said, she's just gonna pester me and she's gonna wear me down. So I'm just gonna go to church with her to prove to her that what I'm saying is right. So I went to church. She went to one of these big mega churches off of Bakersfield. I mean, Bakersfield may not seem like a big church, a big place, but it was a big mega church. And it was like 500 people in this church. The church was full, and I said, she just marched on up. She was marching up front. I guess, she was been a member there a long time, so, she had her seat up there. So I sat way in the back, like in the last pew. And I was kind of mad because she kept bothering me, so I just wanted to just shut her up. So I sat in the back, and they were singing praise and worship, and, songs was good. I was listening to the songs, and then when the pastor got up to start speaking, I got bored, and I went to sleep. And I was in the church. I know some of you guys probably sleep too, but I went in the church, and I was asleep. I was in a deep sleep. Didn't hear anything he had to say. And all of a sudden, I heard the choir singing. So I was like, oh my God, they're finished, So I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I did the church thing. I got that out. So they went down well. The pastor started giving the altar call, and then from that altar call, he said, bow your head and pray. So I bowed my head to pray, and as I was bowing my head to pray, I fell asleep again. But this time, when I opened my eyes, I was up front, in the front of the church, by myself, with them, with the pastor and this other lady, and he was like, the prayer partner will pray for you in the back, and I'm like, what in the world? I thought they was practicing voodoo. I started thinking all sorts of other stuff. I was like, I don't know how I got up here. So I went on in the back with the lady, and she went back there, and then she was talking to me about the Lord and stuff, and I told her, I don't know how I got up there. I didn't mean to go up there. And so she was like, trying to, convert me, and I was trying to convert her, so we was in there back and forth trying to convert each other. And she was like, I see that, she said, I believe that God has something for you, and I'm just going to pray with you because I see that you may not be ready yet. And so I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm happy, because the church was like 3.5 hours long. So I'm happy, we're ready to go. She said, okay, we're just going to pray. So she went ahead, and I just bowed my head. I put my hands like this, and she just started to pray, and and then after she finished praying, she asked me to pray. So I was like, okay. I'm like, we getting out of here. So I was like, okay, I bowed my hand. I was like, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I started going into the Arabic prayer. And then she touched my hand. She stopped me. And she says, I don't understand Arabic, so I would ask you if you'll pray in English. And I was like, okay, and I was like, in the name of Allah, the beneficent and the merciful. And she stopped me again. And then I was getting irritated at that time because she wouldn't let me pray. And I was like, I let you pray. In my mind, I'm thinking all this stuff. And Steve's like, well, can you just say what you want in God's and your own words? And she said, you don't have to do this. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, whatever, so I can leave. So she was like, we just, we raise our hand and sign a surrender, and I'm like, okay, so I'm like sitting like this, I'm doing this. So now I'm like, okay, I'm mad now, and I'm really angry because I want to leave, and then she stopped me, so I'm sitting here praying like this, and then she stopped me again. Now I'm like, I'm livid. I'm like, lady, I got to get out of here, So she was like, well, we just raise our hands like this. This just shows a sign of surrender from God. By that time, I'm really upset. So I raised my hands like this, and she said, well, just tell God what you want in your own words. So I went like this. God, if Jesus is supposed to be the Son of God, you're going to have to prove. And I hit the floor, and I was on my face. I hit that floor. It felt like such a gravity that pulled me to the floor. I hit the floor. I was on my face. And when I was on my face, I can hear, I just heard the tongue speaking. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was. I was like, I was like on the ground, and I thought it was my grandmother because I heard my grandmothers before speak in tongues. And I just kept hearing, and I kept saying, I can't understand you. Big Mama, I can't understand. And then I got scared because my grandmother passed away. And then I started saying, oh my God, it's in here. They got the devil. I'm thinking like they're practicing voodoo. And I just kept hearing speaking in tongues. And then I kept saying, I can't understand you. And then all of a sudden, it was like, hot water pouring on you when you're freezing. And it was like a warmness that came under me. And I heard the voice of the Lord says, this is my son, in whom I am well pleased. And it was so clear. And the person that was speaking in tongues was me. I was speaking. And it was so clear, and I started crying, and I was crying down there. And I kept telling the Lord, I am so sorry. I am so, so sorry. I didn't know. And the Lord's voice was so clear to me. And he was saying, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And he began to, just roll down John with me. And I was like, it was such a soothing voice. And I thought that I was down there for like maybe about 30 minutes. I was down there for like 3.5 hours on my face, on the floor. And when I got up, I went outside and it was dark. Church let out at 1 o'clock. It was dark outside. And my friends were still out there waiting for me. But I felt like I had a weight that was on me that I could not, for the life of me, realize why I felt so good. And it was like something had been lifted off of me. It was like a covering, a veil that had blinded me, that had been lifted and cleared my eyes and my vision. And I've been walking with the Lord ever since I was 19 years old. And I've been walking with him till this day. And I'll continue to walk with him. Even though my families are still Muslim, even though, some of my families and siblings are still Muslim, my parents are still Muslim, I am continuously praying for them. I am talking to them. I'm telling them about the word. I have not deviated. I have not changed. I have been the same that God has called me that day. And I just want you guys to be encouraged.